Last week, absolutely packed with fundamental data. We had a few trade ideas, okay, so we're going to talk about that, and we have CPI coming up, and we have retail sales coming up for the US dollar. Last month was big. Let's see what we get this month. Let's talk about it. Roll the intro. Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another market breakdown. It's your boy Cleveland. Hope you guys are having a great week. Okay, last week, massive amounts of fundamental, 4 central bank meetings. We had different CPIs and GDPs that got released for a lot of our different pairs. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow on the different high impact videos, so make sure you guys stick around. But today we're going to be going into the technicals and looking, pretty deep as to how markets actually got positioned, right? So lots of movement last week. We had a lot of explosions to the upside, like for the CAD, for instance. CAD, you would see CAD run, 40 pips to the upside and then correct, with a different release back down into structure, breaking the low. I mean, it all went all over the place, ended up selling off quite a bit. So we'll talk about that there. But more importantly, I want to look over here at this Euro and this Aussie. That's a pair that we were trading last week, was the Euro AUD, and we ended up getting a decent size correction. I'm going to run the tape on that, but before I do, again, make sure you guys are subscribed. Got some pretty cool content coming out later on this week with a new content segment called Incredible Traders. I think that's going to be something that is really cool. Looking at, some of the biggest trades, biggest losses, biggest wins in history of, macro markets, and maybe we'll look into some funds as well and the traders that executed those positions. All right, so that's going to be a really fun content segment. If you guys got any traders that you want me to talk about, I have the first segment in mind, but subsequently after that, maybe there's some really cool traders that you want me to highlight. I will do that. All right, and if you guys enjoy the content, make sure you like the video for your boy. I appreciate it. Okay, so I'm going to run the tape real quick on a Euro AUD trade idea. It was brought to me by our boy Donovan in the community, and then Jesus followed up with a actual entry, stop, and target, an actual trade alert. I'm gonna run the tape on that real quick so you guys can check out our trade idea there, and we can talk about where we're at right now and why. Here's the tape. One of my members, Donovan, he was like, dude, what do you think about this Euro AUD? I loved it, especially if we saw a little bit of a short back down in the structure. Right now, we are getting a decent-sized sell-side move on this Euro AUD. Hopefully, you get us the same move. So in that Euro AUD trade, all right, we ended up getting pulled out of that position, all right? So that hit stops because the GDP release that came out for the Aussie, they priced in a really bad number, I guess, and then you saw markets turn all the way to the upside on that Euro AUD. I'll post the, here's a screenshot there. You see markets break the high, and then we had a high made, and then look what happened. Markets ran right back in and then consolidated inside of that range, so it ended up only being a wick on that 4-hour or on that daily, okay? So subsequently after that, throughout the week, all right, if you compare all of the Euro pairs, we saw a lot of Euro weakness. And we did get a decent amount of Aussie strength based off of a few more numbers that came out later on that week, which ended up breaking us from that consolidation. All right, so that consolidated low to basically where we are right now. And now we are looking for a pull back up into structure. I was talking about it on our webinar last night, and Jesus was mentioning it throughout that webinar, saying, hey, a correction back up in would be pretty nice. And so that's what we're seeing. And then throughout the week after that, there was some really nice moves called out on the UCAD break sell side, USD JPY back up into structure. Dollar overall, it didn't do amazing. It didn't do well. Here's the dollar index. Okay, still consolidated in that consolidated low that it's just been in for the past 2 weeks or so. But we are at the high of that consolidation right now. And I personally do see us breaking higher and potentially busting outside of that low. I think a lot of risk and a lot of different things that are happening in the market right now relative to the US dollar are lessening a bit, which may bring back some strength. Now, the only thing that I don't like that is counterintuitive to this whole rationale of dollar strength is the S&P 500. S&P 500 at the moment right now is pushing back up, and it did just hit I think a 2 or 3 week high. We know that there is a somewhat inverse relationship with the S&P 500 and that dollar. That might be a catalyst to have us have some dollar sell side. Okay, so that's something I'm keeping an eye on. Again, it's not a 100% correlation. It's not a 90% correlation. I don't even think it's 80. It's around a 70% correlation. So that doesn't mean that every time we get an up move on the S&P, we get a down move on the dollar. But I don't want to fight a 70% correlation. That's pretty good. Okay. Outside of that, let's see what we get. I want to see the dollar back up into structure. Maybe we get some dollar strength this week. CPI, retail sales, all coming out this week. Those are massive numbers. One dealing with growth, one dealing with inflation. Can kind of give you a pretty good prospectus look on the market as a whole. we know our last retail sales was pretty bad. Okay, it did end up printing a lower than expected number, which hurt us quite a bit. Maybe we can get an uptick here, even though our CPI, by the way, was a positive CPI. Our retail sales wasn't so hot. Let's see what we get this week with the retail sales. Both of those are coming out Tuesday and Wednesday, and we're going to be making high impacts for them there, okay? So, Jesus, again, he absolutely killed it last week. USD-JPY, USD-CAD. I mean, he was calling out a lot of these mean divergence trades. A lot of these markets were just overextended, and then they gave him a really good basis to say, okay, I think these markets are going to about to start shorting. Correcting back up inside of those extensions. And there was some opportunity there that he executed on really well. And we see the same opportunity this week. Okay, so let's go into the charts. Let's figure it all out. Let's take a general look and see exactly what we're looking like. And maybe we can see a little bit more momentum reverse because markets are maybe a little bit more extended than they need to be. Okay, guys, look, make sure you're subscribed. All right, like the video for your boy. I appreciate it. Let's go into the charts real quick. All right, guys, let's get in these charts real quick. Obviously, we'll start off here with the Euro USD. So Euro USD, let's check out the monthly, see where we are. All right, so March so far, it's able to hold February's low, and we're getting a lot of price action within all of February. We've already cleared the entire February candlestick in terms of, the March fluctuations. That's pretty interesting, right? So you want to imagine where could this market be by the end of this month, right? And we see that we probably are holding this structure here more than anything, and we just want to ask ourselves how pertinent is that structure and how much are market participants scrutinizing these $1.21 lows. Now we know that they were able to hold there on that weekly. All right, the weekly in February and in March, we see markets holding pretty well. But the most recent area that markets could run down into is this $1.20. Okay, and so my idea is still to potentially see this Euro USD at $1.20. Again, I think some of the things happening in the U.S. and also, by the way, we have CPI and we have retail sales coming out later on this week. We might be able to see a sell side push back down into that structure. All right. That is something that we have been looking for quite some time. Now, it does look like we're kind of wedging a bit here when it comes to this price action. It kind of just seems like we're making lower lows, higher highs and lower lows at the same exact time, lower highs at the same time. Okay, so we're getting a wedge forming. That's going to be pretty interesting. Okay, if we look at it in terms of a potential pennant. Maybe you get a breakout. All right, now are you going to get a breakout higher? Are you going to break out lower? It's an interesting thing about pennants. Pennants, you usually see the bust out higher, right? So we have our extension, you have your consolidation, and then you're usually looking for another extension higher, and that's just if we're playing the actual technicals, right? If we're playing fundamentally, well then technically you still are going long. There's most market participants want to see this Euro USD at $1.30. All right, now if you guys think about it, the euro, they're still printing money. All right, they haven't stopped that process yet. Any kind of positive news on the whole money printing regime could get a lot of strength transferred over to that Euro U. There's a lot of people buying into the bond market. They're liquidating their US dollar holdings and they're buying into that euro. That was a trade that has been happening now for the past 5 or 6 months. Okay, so if we see a continuation there, if we see a continuation of these European bond yields increasing, folks, you are going to see this Euro U trade higher. Okay, now it's just about what's happening. This is a macro market, okay, macroeconomics, but it's structured via micro events. So with the retail sales data coming out this week, with the CPI data coming out this week, we're going to ask ourselves, where does that position us? Where does that position us? Now, on the intraday time frames, let's head over here to this 4-hour. We'll go to the daily real quick, assessing that daily. So this is what we're looking like. We did see a massive run to the upside last week, but markets couldn't hold those highs. Markets ran up into the base of those previous structures, and now we see markets again hanging around here in these lows. If we were to calculate the entire extension here from high to low, where are we structured at the moment? Markets basically, when they ran sell side, they ended up pushing back up into that 61.8. And at the moment, they are hanging around the 38.2. And when you're looking at this entire consolidation in general, it's really around the, the halfway point, right? So 50% level, 38.2. It's kind of hard to basically say, where do we want markets to really go? Okay, where do we want markets to go? So that's the first thing, okay? You need markets to be at an extreme. Right now, for myself, I like to see the move sell side. I would like to see markets clear a decent amount in this leg higher and push it back down into these structures. But obviously, we would need to clear this $1.23 flat. So let's see what happens on that end. $1.23 flat, $1.22 highs. We would draw it up as a zone, right? And we will basically be saying to ourselves, okay, let's see how price action exists within this area, and that can start giving us an idea as to where we could potentially start taking this move. Okay, markets may hold here. Okay, markets may hold at this level and break back to the upside. That's something that could potentially happen. So this is an area that is somewhat on the fence. You know, if you think that this is, you know, a low enough buying area or a decent enough price to start going long again, you might be looking to go long right now. Right, but if you want to start shorting this market, well, you would have probably wanted to be in on these shorts up here in this highs. Jesus was calling out shorts up here in these highs, or you want to potentially see a push back up into structure a bit and then the correction. All right, so my bias personally, I want to see the market short. I do want to see the markets break outside of the level. But based off of where we are right now, we might see a correction back up into structure before we can ever start executing on a push back down into this consolidation and potentially down into these $20s. Now, is the idea of seeing this Euro-U at $30 gone? I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it is, but I'm just saying that markets may need to rally a bit to the sell side, collect some more buy side participants to give that move a more sustainable move. And then we might see markets clear these $26s finally and head back higher again. All right, so we'll see what happens. A lot coming out. We do have some ECB data coming out as well. If I show you guys real quick the euro in general, you guys will see that the euro took a pretty decent hit last week, right? So when it comes to the Euro GBP, we had some Euro weakness come in pretty heavy, right? GBP getting stronger relative to the Euro. Even when it comes to the Euro AUD, obviously, again, another massive sell side move there. Euro JPY, strength coming in there. Euro CAD, more strength coming in on the sell side coming in on the Euro CAD. And even when it comes to the Euro NZD, more sell side. So when we see that the Euro was falling across all of our pairs, obviously that means for us that the Euro is getting weak. Okay, the euro's getting weaker. Now, how much will that sustain? We don't know. But all I'm saying is if we get some kind of U.S. strength coming out with the CPI and the retail sales, and Draghi is somewhat, negative on this Thursday, we're definitely going to break down to these lower structures, and that might give us what we need to break lower here on this Euro USD. Okay. Now, I do want to talk real quick about that Euro AUD, just because that's another pair that we're looking at. I don't want to just kind of start running around all these pairs, especially if I don't see any setups on them. Euro AUD looks real good. I like that we're down here at the low of structure. If we can get any kind of consolidation down here in these lows, we see a nice push back up into the level. That's pretty much it. I'm looking at this on a technical front. I'm not looking at this too fundamentally based, because if I'm looking at it from the fundamental side, I'm expecting more Euro weakness, okay? I'm expecting a little more Euro weakness, which means we may not get a rally here on this Euro AUD. We have to keep an eye on it. If that Aussie had too much steam, pushed outside of its ATR, maybe you'll get a correction back up into structure. But when these markets are steaming with sentiment, it doesn't matter. None of that shit matters. No ATR matters. Nothing matters. These markets can run in one direction for a very long time, okay? So that's something that maybe we should keep an eye on there to give ourselves, maybe an edge, taking that market back up into structure. Okay, now US CAD, pretty interesting trade last week on this USD CAD. Let's go to the 4-hour real quick and see where we are. This is where we're structured. US CAD ran massively in February. Okay, one of the biggest runs in all of FX. US CAD from $1.22 all the way to $1.30, 700 pip run. Okay, so yeah, if you would have caught that whole move, that would have been something that was pretty nice, but we know that's not the way markets work. So since then, we have pulled back around 23% of that entire move higher. All right, now that move, that pullback is pretty well, there's a floor, right? There's a decent floor here from all of, November, a little bit of September, and October here. We can see that markets had a decent time trading higher outside of that level. Let's pull back here and see exactly where we are. Well, let's pull all the way back real quick and let's go to the monthly. Show you guys where we are on the monthly. This is where we are, okay? Markets are now at a high that Q4 USD CAD could not break, okay? Could not break the Q4 high, and we can see that we might see a little, it looks pretty good to see a pullback in this area, okay? There is a lot of price action structured right now around this USD CAD. A pullback even just 50% or even just 30% of this entire candle here will yield you a decent amount of pips. Okay, will yield you a decent amount of pips. All you got to do is get an asymmetric risk-reward ratio, right? So you want something that is in the favor of a decent sized move, but doesn't give you too much drawdown, right? So if we pull over, let's go to the weekly real quick. This is where we are on the weekly. Pretty simple move. Markets came back up into the structure, pulled back down, ran all the way back down, really right around the base, didn't quite get there, and we had a sustained move run all the way back up into these $1.29s. What are we going to see? Our market's going to retest this low here, this entire consolidation low. This is where the next area would be. If that is the case, well then you want to start putting on some size on this bad boy as soon as possible. I like the fact that markets are pushing back up a bit. Hopefully you might get a better entry by having markets trade a little bit higher and then turn over a bit. Now look, a push sell side here on the USD CAD would mean you're getting either some US weakness or some CAD strength. If retail sales or CPI comes out negative, you might want to play that here on the USD CAD. Right, but I do like that the setup over there on the Euro U is fairly positive in terms of if we get a positive result from those two economic data releases, we would be able to have a nice short back down into those consolidations there over there in the $1.22 flat, $1.21 mids, and a break of that would lead us down to $1.20 flat, which is awesome. So let's keep an eye here on the USD CAD. Let's keep an eye here on the USD CAD. Let's see how the data releases affect this market. Would love to see moves back short. That's a Marabuzu candle where literally you close at the low. It's a pretty decent sized indication that you'll see a continuation short. Maybe right now we're just getting a small rally since we've just re-entered this entire price area. Maybe we get a sustained move down. A market held, pushed back up, retest 2870, and then we short. That's what I'm looking for if you want to know the exact thing. All right, so I want to see market retest the base. And as the markets retest that base, to get some size in that area, it would be awesome to start shorting markets down to this $1.27 flat. I don't want to take a breakout. Okay, if I had to take a break, this isn't the structural breakout that I really want. Would love to take that little retest right there in that area. All right. So outside of that, what are we looking at? What are we looking at? Let's maybe head over here to the USD JPY. JPY falling off a cliff. Lots of money running back into that JPY currency. As we guys can see, this was the buy side push up into structure that Jesus took last week. Maybe we can get markets to maintain here. You might get a correction. But obviously, again, we got to see what's happening over there with the JPY. There is data coming out pertaining to the JPY next week. So this is something that we might talk about on that end. Okay, and I don't know if I've shown you guys the dollar index, but this is the dollar index, and this is what I'm looking for over here on the dollar index. All right, pushed back up into this 50% level. Let's see if we can maintain. Okay, that would be a retest of the entire base that we were hoping that markets held last year. Okay, and I guess Q4 last year, right? So just a few months ago. So let's see if markets can maintain. We had a breakout lower on that once that S&P 500 started running in the new year, and so far we've been able to consolidate at these lows. Maybe we can get a sustained move and push back up into $1.92, which is 92 flat. Man, that would give us a really good situation here over on the Euro USD to potentially start to see markets break $1.22, and we would technically be at $1.20 if we can get to the 92 number here on the dollar index. Okay, pretty interesting. Let's look at gold real quick. GC, where are we at there? Let's look at it on the weekly. It's been a while, so consolidating pretty dramatically in the 2017 high. That looks like the 2016 high as well. Pretty interesting. We know Aussie has a pretty decent sized correlation there when it comes to gold. And let's look lastly at oil real quick, and that's going to help us, with these CAD numbers. Let's see, on a monthly perspective, still March consolidated, February sold off quite a bit. We know there is a correlation with US dollar weakness. We usually get some commodity strength. Okay, so you guys can notice here an up move in oil that happened in 2017, probably somewhat correlated to that US dollar selling off quite a bit. We know that the US dollar is coined as the petrodollar, right? Because all oil has to be bought in US dollars before it's shipped anywhere. Unless you're in Venezuela, they just switched over to the renminbi, right? So pretty interesting things happening on that end. We'll see how that maybe unfolds markets. That's some new stuff that's going down over there in Venezuela. So folks, I like it. I like what we see here. Hopefully we can get a short here on the USD CAD. That would mean that we're seeing some US dollar weakness, but I also like Euro U short. Okay, I like Euro U short. But at the end of the day, if markets consolidate right there at these $1.22 mids, which is, let's see. So if markets do consolidate in this area and we just see that markets are not able to break higher, hey, we have to do what the markets are telling us, which is, hey, we might have to start trading higher here, okay? So far, I need a little bit more structure. Monday's going to be a pretty calm day. Tuesday, we're going to be back at it with high impact. Let's see how this Monday market is structured. It's 9:18. We're about to have the U.S. Open. We have Aussie session later on tonight, and then boom, tomorrow we do get that data that comes out. I think it's CPI data that comes out first, and then we have retail sales data coming out later on this week. Okay, let's see if we get some more structure. I want to see Euro-U break down into these levels. If it doesn't happen, maybe we can catch a buy-side entry. And I do want to see CAD short as well. And I love Euro-AUD long. Okay, that's what I want to see. Let's see what we get. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Please, I hope to talk to you guys soon. Hasta la vista.